Welcome. It's Friday, the end of the week. I'm really pleased to be with you again today, my last day. And this week I've been talking a little bit about giving and ethical development. And I touched on karma slightly, on the dangers inherent in depending on sensual pleasures, the satisfaction of sense pleasures for our happiness, and on the movements to renounce or let go of craving and clinging. And these were the topics that the Buddha offered in sequence to people who were unfamiliar with his teachings. And once his listeners had taken these all in, and their minds were ready, receptive, free from hindrances, elated and confident, that's how the texts often word it, he would go on to the teaching special to the Buddhas: suffering, its origin, its cessation, and the path leading to its cessation, the Four Noble Truths. And of course, I can't talk about the Four Noble Truths in 15 minutes this morning after the meditation. They're a topic that deserves a lot more than that. It deserves depth and time and respect and reflection, lots of reflection. And actually, each topic that I've spoken about this week, deserves a lot of time and reflection. So I hope you will continue to explore all of these, all of the topics that I spoke about. But today I do want to try to make a case for the way that the things that I've talked about this week have implications for and are actually ways of beginning to understand these teachings special to the Buddhas, the truths that are not as easy to truly know and deeply see until we've had more time and practice. I hope I can make the case that these supposedly preliminary teachings point to understandings that are really right at the heart of how we eventually come to be free. So let's meditate now. Taking your comfortable, upright, even if you're lying down, a sense of uprightness, meditation posture. Feeling into that a sense of dignity that can come with a posture that is alert and respectful of what we're doing. Offering this gift meditation to ourselves. Just taking the temperature of your overall state right now, mind and heart, the body. What does it feel like to be alive in your particular body right now? Inviting ease, inviting relaxation. Letting those habitual areas of tension be soft if they feel tight. And it's beginning to settle. And then letting the sensations of breathing become foremost in your awareness, come into the foreground. Just sensing the sensations, knowing them as they arise. Noticing if there's any pleasure in the breathing, any aspect of the breathing, any uh, particular area of sensation. Breathing in a way that feels good, if that's possible for you. Appreciating the pleasure in the breath. Letting whatever pleasure there is in breathing be the foremost in your awareness. Just resting in the most pleasant aspect of your breathing. Just allowing the mind to rest in the breathing, to rest in the pleasure in the breathing. allowing the movement of the breath to be at the center of your awareness, resting in the breath, resting in any pleasure that you feel in the sensations of breathing. And as the meditation comes to its close, just thinking about the goodness that we receive through our practice, the benefit, valuing that, appreciating that, and then sharing it outward. Just allowing it to inform all our interactions with others, all our activities during the day, so that the goodness can ripple out, in ways that maybe are invisible, but I think they have an effect. And we share our goodness, our intentions, our benefits with everyone, with all we meet. So I started the week by saying that in this Western insight tradition of Buddhism, based in the Theravada, that my sense is that often our meditation practice is prioritized in a way that makes the other aspects of our Dharma cultivation kind of take second fiddle, be undervalued. And so my intention has been to try to make the point that practicing and coming to understand what the Buddha expounded in his step-by-step introduction, that's just as much a cultivation of wisdom as the meditation cultivation. Giving, dana, motivated by generosity, ethical cultivation, sila, developing both the intention to act in ways that don't cause harm, ways that are skillful, wholesome, and then also developing the discernment to see the difference between what is wholesome and what is not. It's really key. And then beginning to recognize that actions have results, and the results depend on whether the action arose out of a wholesome or an unwholesome intention. Beginning an understanding of conditionality, the heart of the Dharma, of the workings of conditionality in the realm of our intentional human activity. That's karma. And then being cautioned about the ultimate unsatisfactoriness of craving for sense pleasures, getting the barest hint, perhaps, that, craving itself is dukkha. Just a whisper in the mind about that. And then, remembering something that Bhikkhu Bodhi said in talking about giving. I spoke about it on the first day, on Monday, that it directly undercuts the tendencies to greed and hatred in the mind, two of the kilesas, the roots of craving that lead to suffering. So right from the beginning, with this very simple, widely accepted understanding that it's good to give, it's good to be generous, it's good not to be greedy, there's this seed of liberating wisdom. It might be a seed that takes a long time to sprout and grow, but it's there, it's been planted right in the beginning. Bhikkhu Analayo, the German monk, highly regarded teacher and translator and scholar of Buddhist texts, has spoken of the Buddhist practice as the whole of the path, as a progressive refinement of joy, a progressive refinement of joy. And I love that phrase. It's beautiful. And I also think you could call the path a progressive refinement of ethical behavior. And I don't think those two are unrelated either. There's even what we call the bliss of blamelessness that can arise when we know we haven't done anything that would cause harm to someone else or to ourselves. And that's a lovely feeling. And as our ethical sensitivity grows, there's more and more awareness of the dukkha, the suffering, the stress that we experience when we act unethically. That is, when we act out of the roots of craving, greed, hatred, delusion. Here's a quote from Ajahn Sucitto, British monk, teacher, great teacher, from an essay he wrote on this topic about the graduated talk that the Buddha would give. He said, although this graduated path may seem to be of a basic nature that we could easily get or even skip over for more esoteric teachings, I don't think the Buddha wasted his time in presenting soft options. Instead, I consider this graduated path to be essential, to be constantly cultivated, and of far-reaching significance for the world in general. Even after 40 years of practice, I still seek and enjoy development in terms of this graduated path, looking for how I can give and share to people and other creatures, to how I can broaden my field of ethical concern, and how I can live in a way that uses material resources with wise restraint. Beautiful. So the Four Noble Truths, they're an example of cause and effect, or more accurately, they're an example of conditionality, conditions and what arise in the wake of the conditions. So the first truth arises, dukkha, and it arises conditioned on the presence of some kind of craving or clinging. And the cessation of dukkha arises conditioned on the path of practice. And when the Buddha introduces people to this idea that their ethical behavior and generosity can result in, in living in heavenly realms in the future, he's drawing their attention to the relationship between actions and what arises dependent on them. The seed of understanding of this deep subject of conditionality, of karma, it's already there in that teaching, the seed of the understanding of karma. And that lies at the heart of the Dharma. Conditionality lies at the heart of the Dharma. And when the Buddha describes the shortcomings and the dangers of depending on sensual desires for well-being, he's underscoring the connection between craving and dukkha, which is right there, in the first and second noble truths. This gradual introduction to the Dharma, then it converges on the last topic, what I spoke about yesterday, renunciation, letting go. And maybe, some of the people who were hearing the Buddha give such a talk would actually go forth into homelessness, letting go of virtually everything, becoming monastics. But, probably most listeners would not go that far. But hopefully their minds would be turned towards some degree of letting go, or some awareness that that's a possibility and that it might be beneficial, just a way of attenuating the craving that is just so pervasive in this world. Because they've been introduced to the idea that craving doesn't really live up to its promises. Maybe they're recognizing in a very limited preliminary way that craving is related to dukkha, to stress. Maybe we are recognizing that. In the same essay that I quoted from before, Ajahn Sucitto spoke about sense desires as being like balloons on strings that we're always kind of clutching after, trying to keep hold of. He said, you grab the string of the balloon and up you go, and then crash back to earth again, a little stirred up. So you grab the string of another balloon, same thing happens, but a pattern is established, and the mind gets used to that pattern to the extent that the purpose of life becomes one of grabbing balloons. And he goes on to speak of renunciation as the way to break this pattern. The skill of letting go of the string is renunciation. It's not that you don't feel pleasure, but you know how to let the string run through your hand and not to clench it. Then you don't get pulled away. This skill is developed through stepping back from sense contact and enriching the inner life. Much of Buddhist meditation practice, in fact, the Buddhist way of life, is about this, about generating happiness from an inner heart base or citta to counter the attraction of the senses. Now, remember, I spoke yesterday about Ajahn Thanissaro talking about trading candy for gold. It's the same thing that Ajahn Sucitto is speaking of. Developing this generating happiness from an inner heart base rather than depending on the sense pleasures. The wholesome happiness that comes from skillful action, all our skillful actions, including meditation. And this is the place where the meditative bhavana comes into the picture. Sometimes Gil speaks of letting go as letting go into something that's more satisfying, like samadhi. And that's the promise of the Buddhist path, that as we let go of, that what we let go of is eventually what allows us to let go into a place of supreme freedom and ease. So letting go of leads to letting go into this place of just incomparable peace. I came to the Dharma 20-something years ago from a spiritual tradition that put a great deal of emphasis on transcendent experiences and meditation. And I put a great deal of emphasis on them myself. And there was an assumption that those experiences would automatically lead to more ethical living, to doing less and less harm. But my experience was that without a grounding in the importance of ethics, the deep meditation experiences were more likely to lead to just building up a sense of ego, and self-involvement, reasons to compare myself with others, to imagine I was, pretty far along on the path, pretty advanced. And I really wanted to believe that if I just meditated deeply enough, my whole being would be transformed. All my bad habits would just disappear. But I could see that was not the case. It took me many years, many years to realize that, I have to admit. The beautiful states of mind that we develop in meditation, they don't just automatically transfer into beautiful ways of behaving in daily life. We need to train in becoming more skillful. We need to cultivate what is wholesome. And I really could have benefited from one of the Buddha's graduated talks back then. When I came to this Buddhist path, this insight path, although I didn't hear a lot of teachings explicitly about ethics and generosity at first, I could sense really palpably the integrity and the wholesomeness in the structures, in the organizations, and in the people that I came in contact with. And that gave me confidence that I'd found a path where true liberation was possible. There was just, a palpable sense of people acting carefully, acting with care for each other. It inspired me right from the very beginning. And at this point in the journey, 20 something years later, I'm really convinced that developing ethical sensitivity and discernment about what is skillful and what is not, choosing the skillful more and more often, I really believe that has contributed just as much to my growth in the Dharma as have any profound experiences in meditation, which I value highly. I don't mean to put them in some second best place. But all three legs of the stool need to be strong and balanced for a full, engagement with the path. There's one last quote from Ajahn Sucitto. If we want to live and pass on the way to a good and awake life, we establish this path. Generosity, morality, and renunciation bring happiness, strength, and freedom. They are for our welfare and lead to Nibbana. This is why the Buddha taught them as a path, because real life is in the goodness, truth, and beauty of heart. So I'll leave you with that. And it's been really a pleasure to be with you this week. I hope it's been beneficial. Gil will be back next week with something new for you. And in the meantime, practice well, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and thank you.